Windows RT versus Windows 8. It's a bit of a confusing topic to some people, but it's really not that complex once you get your mind around it. The differences between Windows 8 and Windows RT is minute in surface details, like it still has the same menus and it pretty much works the same way. The big difference is actually what it's actually compiled for, what processor or chip architecture that Windows 8 and Windows RT are designed to run on. Windows RT is... It doesn't actually stand for anything, the RT. At least that's what Microsoft says. But it is a spiritual sequel, I guess you could say, to Windows Runtime, which was supposed to be a version of Windows that ran on ARM chips. Now, there's kind of a few different types of chips, but the ones that we're going to be talking about are the x86, which is your standard PC desktop type chipset that you use. x86s are 32-bit processors, and then x64 chips are 64-bit processors. And the important thing to note is you can run x86 software on an x64 processor, but if something is designed to run on an x64, you cannot run it on an x86. Basically, it's backwards compatible, but not forwards compatible. And then you have the other chip that we're going to be talking about, which is the ARM chips. Now, ARM processors, they're just slightly different architecture. The main thing, I'm not going to go into the main details and the differences of the chips themselves, but code that is compiled to run on an x86 or an x64 cannot run on an ARM, and ARM cannot run anything. And they can't run anything that was compiled on ARM, and ARM can't run anything that's compiled for them. So there's no compatibility between them. They're completely different architectures. Now, Windows RT, Windows Runtime, is basically the version of Windows that's designed to run on ARM chips. Now, the cool thing is the idea is most software created for Windows 8 kind of from here on, stuff that's specifically for Windows 8, you'll be able to very easily, using this whole integrated Microsoft runtime environment, you can compile for both ARM and your x86, x64 architectures and create basically a program that will run on both. Now, the reason why there is a difference and why it matters is because things like your Microsoft Surface, their tablet, they all use ARM chips right now. So any software that you have will not run on these Windows tablets. And a lot of people are like, yeah, it will run. I'm going to go get a Microsoft Surface. But in reality, you can't like play StarCraft on it, for example, because there's no ARM version of StarCraft. Now, if they were to update it to work on it, that'd be great, but chances are not. So what's going to happen is actually in a couple of months, probably mid through next year, they're going to be releasing the Microsoft Surface Pro, which will actually have a full x64 chip inside of it. And the cool thing with that is everything will be forwards compatible with that. So you'd be able to actually run real Windows software on your standard tablet, which is a really cool idea. Now, whether it works well or not, we'll have to see. But that's the main difference between Windows RT and Windows 8. Windows RT is Windows 8. It's just that it's designed to run on an ARM processor. So basically, that's the main difference. There are some slight differences in actual feature sets because there are three versions of Windows 8. There is standard Windows 8, there's Windows 8 Professional, and then there is Windows RT. And while Windows RT is part of the Windows 8 family, it's not really considered that main distribution of Windows 8. So there you go. That's about it. I mean, there's not much really more to say about it without going into some really nitty gritties. Just kind of keep that in mind. Windows RT cannot run software that you run on your standard PC. That doesn't mean it won't have other software. It has its own unique library of software, and you'll have to use the Microsoft Store primarily to obtain Windows RT software at this point. And that is both, a good and a bad thing. But when it comes to Windows 8, all of your current software should work just fine. There's a few compatibility issues with certain pieces of software. I've only found one major piece of software that does not work on Windows 8, and that's an old space exploration game that I used to play that I decided I wanted to de-mothball on Steam, and it didn't work. But it worked fine on Windows 7, so it's the only piece of software I've had that had any issues. Other than that, Windows 8, the interface is terrible, but it's a good operating system nonetheless. So there you go, Windows 8 versus Windows RT. Peace.